What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of the SunShak show. I'm your host, Sunny Shakawala, and today my guest is Justin Fraser. Justin started real estate investing back in 2014, and just recently in May of 2018, he bought a 40-unit apartment complex in Portsmouth, Virginia, while living and working full-time in New Jersey. In today's conversation, we talked a little bit about early struggles, the importance of taking action, and basically kicking ass. And that's exactly what Justin's doing. So without further ado, let's bring in Justin. All right, Justin, thank you for joining me in my home today.
Very happy to be here.
Thank you so much for saying that. This is actually the first episode of my podcast.
I'm honored to be the first guest. I'm really excited too. I'm excited. I'm excited to see this episode, but what you're going to do with it. You know, we were talking about your plan for this. I think it's going to be a really cool podcast.
Thank you so much.
I will be a subscriber.
Thank you for saying that. So I want to give the people watching or listening a little bit of context of who you are, obviously, but first how we met.
Sure.
So what I remember was I just had gotten out of a deal with a mutual friend, Matt Faircloth.
Yep.
And I asked him, hey, when's the next thing, right? What's the next deal that we could do together? And he said, I don't have anything right now, but one of my mentees, or one of my students, has a deal down in Virginia, and his name is Justin. Let me share the contact information, and then I think a few days later you called me.
Yep.
And what happened on that call?
I don't remember too much, actually. I remember we talked. I don't remember our phone call so much. I think we just were feeling each other out and just getting a sense of, what you do, what I do, sort of explaining what I had going on, and that was a time where a lot of things are very blurry because I had so much going on and I wasn't sleeping so much. So I'm sure it was a fantastic call, but I was so focused on that deal that I was working on. But I do remember when we met in person.
Yes, at the Mid-Atlantic Summit in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Which, for those of you who don't know, is a real estate investor conference that was hosted by Dave Van Horn of PPR Note Company.
Yeah.
It was a weekend long of a lot of heavy hitters speaking.
It was my first time going to a conference like that, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, took a lot of lessons learned from the talks, but networking is key.
Who were one of your favorite speakers at that event?
My favorite speaker was Jay Martin. Because he spoke so much about getting out of your business and automating the business and having virtual assistants and basically just getting out of your own way. And there's nothing. His message really was like, you're not unique, right? You are, but you're not. There's everything that you do can be systematized, written down. The process can be created, your way of doing things, but it can be written down and handed off to someone.
Yeah.
So there's so many things in my business that I've been doing that bog me down, that need to get done. And so now, I guess it took a while to sink in, but now I'm actually taking some of those lessons and bringing in some other people to help my business, where even if I don't have a ton of money to pay them right now, I'm figuring it out and trading coaching and bringing on some people that can help me take some of that stuff off my plate so I can focus on the bigger activities, like finding deals and raising money.
Jay Martin was definitely one of the better speakers at the event. The big lesson that I took away from him, just to piggyback on what you were saying, was everybody says they value time, but they don't show that through their actions. Right. Like, for example, they might want to save $5 on shipping by going to a place to pick up something where their time is worth way more than $5 an hour for the time
wandering around the store. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. That was definitely a fun event. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? Who is Justin Fraser?
It's a deep question. So I am someone who helps people build wealth through investing in real estate. And so that is my side gig right now. I have a full-time job. By day, I'm a project manager. I manage software design and development projects. But I'm an entrepreneur. And so while the day job is great and I enjoy it and I do that, my nights and my weekends and my lunch breaks are filled with my business and real estate specifically. So I've had rental properties and flipped a house and wholesale deals, but really the last 2 years have been focused on apartment investing.
Gotcha.
Buying, managing, raising money for apartments.
So when you say you're an entrepreneur, is this something from a young age, or is it something that?
Oh yeah, I was out there every snowstorm. Every person in my neighborhood had my number on their fridge.
No.
And I would take call, and I would tell like literally, you got to call me the night before because I fill up fast. And I had my entire day planned out. Every big snowstorm, I had all my lawn mowing scheduled for every weekend. I'd be out there mowing lawns, and like I was always doing that. I enjoy that. I figured, and it's crazy that like I had that little business as a kid, and making $20 a lawn or something. And,
right.
But like I've always done that. I've always enjoyed the whole process of like figuring it out, making money.
Wow. So you were helping people keep their houses clean.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Keeping the front yards clean.
Yeah.
Keeping the driveways clean,
Yeah.
and now you're providing housing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a nice step up. But yeah, I mean, it's always been in me. Like I've never been afraid of work. And, starting with my own house, like that was it. I had chores and responsibilities, and I had to mow my own lawn, and I didn't get paid for that, but I figured I knew how to do that. Right. So, and I already had the lawnmower, so why don't I mow the guy next door's lawn and get paid for that too, and then hit next to him and just go down the line. And that's what I did.
Hey, man, that's a great spirit at such a young age. It obviously
Yeah.
shows that you got the hustle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the apartment investing
Okay.
mostly for this conversation, but
Cool.
before we get there, can you tell us about a few of your first deals?
Yeah.
Or how long ago they were, just to like get a sense of how experienced you are in this world of real estate investing.
I started a little over 4 years ago.
Okay.
And I was sitting at my job and thinking about, okay, how much money should I put into my 401k? And, like literally Googling, like, okay, how much should I put into this? What percentage of my income goes where? And what should I be saving? And I was just trying to figure all that out. And then that got me into stocks, and do I want to buy stocks, and how does stock investing work? And then I came across Bigger Pockets and real estate. I was like, I could make more than 15% of my money if I bought my own house, and like this is worth a shot, And I had some money saved up, and so I convinced my wife that we were tenants, we were renters, and I convinced her that we were going to buy a house and not live in it, but have other people live in it, and she was on board. I broke down the numbers and explained how it was going to work, and that was my first house. I figured it out. I didn't really go to any networking meetings. I didn't have a real estate support network, but I had one realtor that I found that he was an investor, and he talked me through it, and he showed me all the neighborhoods of Trenton, the ones you don't want to go into, the ones you do want to go into. And I picked Trenton because I only had $20,000, and that's the house I could afford.
That's the market in New Jersey when you had $20,000.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's the only money I had.
Right.
And as an investment property, you've got to put like 25% down. So I was like, okay, that gets me about an $80,000 house.
Right.
So that's what I found, was an $80,000 house in Trenton. I bought it for $81,000 and got a tenant in there. It was done. Like the lady that owned it, her son was a contractor, so it was all fixed up.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about renovation or work. I was scared the contractors were going to rip me off, so I didn't want any sort of project that needed, new floors or appliances. I wanted it done, and it was done. So I bought it not from investor. It was a lady that was moving out, but it was a nice to take care of house. And so screening tenants, put tenants in there, and that sort of kicked it off and gave me the bug. And I had some struggles. I learned the hard way. I let some of the tenants were great the first year, and the second year the rents started coming later and later, and I was collecting late fees. So I was like, "This is great." I remember telling some people, "I'm making an extra $70 a month just in late fees," and then that stopped coming in, and the checks started bouncing, and I was forgiving, and I gave them every opportunity, and all of a sudden I ended up 6 months without rent, and I evicted them, and because that was my other biggest fear, like I don't want to have to go through an eviction. I'd rather not get paid. Well, it was needed, and then we went through it, and then they trashed the house on the way out, and but by then I had a little more confidence, fixed it back up, got some new tenants in there, and then.
So how many properties did you end up looking at before you decided to go with that first one that you found?
I spent a few months, actually, a few nights, weekends, probably sometimes 2 to 3 nights a week, and Saturday mornings, whatever time my realtor would give me. I looked at every house that I could in most of the neighborhoods that are reasonable, that are not terrible in Trenton. And so I got a really good sense of street by street, neighborhood by neighborhood, how the houses that smelled like cat urine, and the houses that were falling apart or had giant holes in the walls, and support that mice, and like everything that you could see wrong in the house I saw. And so I was getting really nervous, and then we found this house, and I knew I could just walk in right away, just know. And of course I needed a home inspector to confirm that for me, and I had a home inspector come in, and they did that. But I was so nervous about having to do all that work, but by seeing all those houses, I knew as soon as I'm walking through it that this was a good house that was way different than most of the other houses I'd seen.
And that feeling after your first deal,
yeah.
For the people that are listening or watching that have yet to do their first deal, I know what it feels like. I know what it felt like for me.
Yeah.
What did it feel like for you when you closed that first deal?
I still, the picture I took that day, we left the closing, my wife and I drove down to the house, and I took a selfie of us and holding up the key, and I was so proud. Mm-hmm. And I was like shaking. The picture is blurry, but it's like one of my favorite pictures because like it represents a victory that I had from all that, from that idea, from reading online, and then putting a plan in place and executing. And I was just so proud in that moment of the fact that we bought this house, and then also nervous and scared because now I have to go put it on the market and deal with tenants and all that kind of stuff. But with any challenge, like if I set my mind to it and then I figure it out and I just go, and that's what I've been doing in my business ever since.
Right. The feeling that I got after my first deal was definitely, I waited a lot longer than you. Mm-hmm. I spent a lot of time reading. Yeah. I spent a lot of time in the analysis phase. But I remember very clearly when I finally signed that paper for my first deal, when I closed my first deal, the overwhelming feeling that I got was, when am I going to get my next one?
Mm. Yeah.
Once you get that first one, like something just like unlocks in your mind, in your body, and you feel more ready for the next one.
I agree. And I was out of money. Right? Mm-hmm. I told you, I put all my money into that first one. So I wasn't totally thinking, where's the next one? Because I thought I was going to maybe take 5 or 6 years to save up all the cash flow and then maybe buy another one. And then, it would be 4 years after that, I'd buy a third. Mm-hmm. Obviously, all that has changed because what happened was over time, as I was being a landlord and seeing that I was making pretty good money and I continued to read Bigger Pockets and talk to other investors, I realized that this could actually be a pretty significant side income and eventually maybe a full-time income. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of, for me, the bug sort of built over time. And then I realized, oh man, I need to do something quicker. And so I decided I was going to flip a house. So that was my next deal, was I flipped the house.
Right.
And I got a partner, my partner Kevin, we formed Liberty Property Investing. Okay. And so we flipped the house together, and that was great and terrible at the same time. I mean, the end result is we made money, so that's great.
Right.
It took us.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It took us 50 weeks, 50.
Okay.
Which is way longer than any flip should ever take, mm-hmm. especially since we did it with private money at a 10% rate. So we were paying something like $2,400 a month just in interest expenses, and it was great because we were learning as we went. Mm-hmm. But our investor on that deal made more money than we did. But that's okay. Honestly, I was okay with that. Right. Now we know how to flip a house. And I also know that I don't really want to flip a house.
Right. Dan. Which is such a valuable lesson.
Right.
You tasted it. You tried it.
Yeah.
It's not for you.
We started that and I was like, man, we're gonna flip 10 houses a year and we're gonna be just rolling in the dough and this is what I'm gonna do full time. And then I realized, actually, that doesn't really totally suit my skill set, and it's not something that, it depends, very market dependent.
Yeah.
You have to have a steady stream of deals coming in, and we weren't set up for that.
And it just goes back to show that taking action is by far and away the number one most important thing. Absolutely. Right? Because even when you thought, before you got your first rental property, maybe I can, scavenge enough money mm-hmm. every 4 or 5 mm-hmm. years to buy another one and another one, and it seemed like a slow grind. Yeah. But you got that first one, and then you figured out, right? And we're sitting 4 years later, and you have a huge apartment building now. Yeah. Right? So you figured out how to speed it up. You also, one of the avenues was flipping homes, and you figured out from that experience, even though you made a little bit of money, you figured out that's not really for you, right?
Right.
So fast forward to just a few months ago, when you close on a 40-unit building in Portsmouth, Virginia.
Yes.
Tell us about that deal.
So I about a year before, really, I decided that apartment investing was going to be the way to go. Syndication specifically, because I love the value add opportunity with apartments. I love that if I can increase rents $50 times 40 units, and then divide that by the cap rate, we're adding so much value to a property that took us way more money to add than we did flipping a house. And it's like all that work, I might as well do something where my payoff is going to be that much bigger. So I got interested in apartment investing, and just, again, it was like starting from scratch though, because apartment investing is not like buying a single family house and renting it out and figuring it out as you go. You're jumping into a business, you're buying a business, and you have to run it like a business. And so spent a solid year looking for deals, but also planning out, how am I going to run this business? How am I going to get this business? How am I going to find a deal? How am I going to find the money for this deal? There's a million things that go into it. Right. So it took me about a year to really figure it out and to close on my first property.
So you said two terms that the people listening or watching might not be familiar with. So one of them would be syndication, and the other one was cap rate. So if you could just take like a minute to maybe describe at a high level what those two things
So syndication is when essentially I bring in investors to fund the down payment, and we all together go get a loan for the property, and then we buy this property. So there's multiple investors, and it's all done the proper way with many thousands of dollars of legal fees and entities set up the right way, and you've got to do it right. But essentially, we're bringing in investors to buy a share of the company that then goes and buys the property. So that's what syndication is. And me, being the general partner, the managing partner of the syndication, I'm in charge of everything from entity setup to evaluating deals to bringing in investors, raising the money, every step along the way, and of course getting us to closing.
Right.
And then cap rate is the way that properties are valued, apartment properties are valued. So if you have a single family house, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house is going to be worth what the 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house next to it is worth, right? That's how pricing works. Comps, right? With apartments, there's not necessarily a 40-unit complex next door to my 40-unit complex. You don't have a similar comp. So they value it more like a business based on the income that's coming in and the expenses that are going out. And then certain areas have different cap rates, and so it's a way of measuring value of a property. Right. So if there's a 8 cap in that area, that means that if I'm buying cash for that, if I'm paying cash for that property, I could expect like an 8% return on my money.
Right.
And so if you add value to a property at increasing the income, if you are increasing the income of the property, you divide that by the cap rate, and now you've got all the value.
Right. So the cap rate is expressed as an interest rate, and it's basically your net operating income over your cap rate equals the purchase price or the value of the apartment building.
Right.
So how did you end up finding? It's called Kingman Apartments.
Yep. So I was looking everywhere and telling everyone what I was looking for, and so I had identified a few markets that I liked and went there.
I want to interrupt you.
So 6 words in.
I want to interrupt you,
please,
because you started with telling people in your existing network what you wanted, but what was the actual thing that led to you finding Kingman?
Right. So I started on LoopNet, which is essentially Zillow for apartment buildings, and most investors say that Zillow is where deals go to die. There's usually not great deals. Some deals are good deals in it, and I think every property depends on how you see it and what your business plan is for it. So there are opportunities there. But what is on LoopNet is brokers. Mm-hmm. They're listing their deals. So I picked a few markets that I was interested in, mostly within driving distance. I didn't want to have to fly, and I started analyzing the deals and running the numbers and talking to brokers. And then there was something that might be interesting enough to go look at, I would go see it. Took a day off work, go see the property. And since I was taking a day off work, I'd try to see like 4 or 5 properties in one day, like squeeze everything into it. And so I started with this one in particular. It was actually last July. I met this broker, looked at a massive property that was way too big for me at the time. It was 96 units, $3.2 million, and I was just happy to be there and looking at something. And I just followed up with him afterwards, and every 2 to 3 weeks, just a reminder of what I was looking for. This is what I want. This is the type of property I'm looking for. Value add deal, this size, this area. And he called me back in the fall. We looked at something, didn't work out, and then he called me back again and said, "Look, I just got this deal. It's perfect for you. It's what you've been telling me for 6 months that you're looking for. Come now." And so I was down there like 2 days later. I called my boss and took off work, and I went down there because it was a property that he had just gotten. They hadn't even done the marketing for it yet. They hadn't put the whole package together.
Right.
But it's what I told him I wanted. So I sort of had a foot in the door there because I was top of mind for him, because I didn't let myself fade away for him. Probably bothered him a little bit, but that's what you have to do. You have to be persistent. And so, but I did that also times 5 brokers in 5 other cities as well. So there was a lot of follow up. But it's just a basic system. Reminder on my calendar every 2 weeks. Hey, what's going on in the market? What? Just a conversation. Reminder what I wanted. So he called me with the deal. We went down there. I brought a property manager and a contractor, and we walked through it. And I decided that this, we'd make an offer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was there ever, in your search, a geographic filter? Right.
The geographic filter was I didn't want to fly.
Okay.
So mostly because I figured that being my first deal of this size was going to require a lot of trips for me, which would require a lot more money, and I didn't have too much money to put into it.
Right.
So
because Portsmouth, Virginia is not close.
6 hours.
6 hours.
6 hour drive, but it's not so bad. I could go after work if I need to, and then be there the whole next day and drive back the next night if I needed to. So it's a long 24 hour, 30 hours or something, but it's doable within reason. And it's still, it's not like I have to be on an airline schedule or booking hundreds of dollar flights. Part of this is you have to go sort of last minute too. So if I'm trying to book flights and last minute flights, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Now I would probably consider it, looking further away, but my first one I wanted to be able to drive.
It's still far.
It is.
It's still far. And that's something that I think most people, again, would shy away from.
Yeah.
But you have figured out a way.
Yeah.
So let me ask, when did you close on Kingman again? It was May
30th.
May 30th. So it's been about 2 months, right? And how much time have you spent down there in the 2 months since acquiring?
So I spent a weekend when we closed, and I was down there 2 weeks after that, and 2 weeks after that, and I was just down there 2 weeks ago. So three trips.
So 3 visits, about 2 days?
Yep. And I have a strong team down there that is doing the bulk of the work. There's not much for me to do physically there, except for checking in on the contractor work and making sure that it's up to the quality that I'm expecting. Walking the property, looking for things that I didn't notice before or problems. But I've got people that are walking the property every day. I have my contractor down there doing the work. I have the property manager there working with the tenants. So they're my eyes and ears. They're there every day.
So this is a real business.
It is a real business, absolutely. And so I think that my goal is to only have to go, it'll slow down to once a month, then it'll slow down to every other month, and it'll probably slow down to once a quarter, would be my guess. I want to keep a close eye on it, but every 2 to 3 months is probably a healthy level of visitation.
Right.
Once we settle down. It's my first one. I need to be there and keep an eye on it, because I have a lot of other people's money invested in this deal, and that means the world to me. So I can't, I am accountable for their money in this deal. So if something is going wrong, I need to be there and I need to see it so that I can catch it and that we can make corrective actions if needed.
So let's talk about the funding for a second. You said that was probably the hardest part of putting this deal together. How many people have actually invested in this deal alongside you?
I have a dozen investors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
All people that, some people I worked with in previous jobs, some people I work with in my current job, some people who I met through the RIA, some people who I had met just in my travels down to Norfolk and Portsmouth area prior to even finding this deal. People that I had met over time, and even actually a neighbor of mine as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So literally, when I say tell anyone and everyone that could possibly be interested or know somebody, someone might provide an introduction. So from all aspects of my life, I've invested from all different aspects of my life on this deal, and it's pretty awesome.
Any cold investors? Someone that you had just met, for this specific deal that you didn't have a prior relationship with?
So through the way that we're set up with, and there's a lot of SEC regulations that I'm not an expert on, but you have to have a prior business relationship for anyone that's going to invest.
That's part of the syndication.
That's part of the syndication. Yeah, exactly. So in some capacity, it just have to have a prior relationship actually. So whether we met at a meetup or had some calls together or something like that, those people, we've all had some sort of prior. So it's no one that you can't solicit, you can't advertise. I can't get a billboard that says, "Hey, come join Kingman Apartments on the side of the turnpike" or something. There are ways that you can set up to do that, but that wasn't the way that we structured this deal.
Right. This is a huge, vote of confidence in you.
Yeah.
Right? These people, a dozen people, at probably a minimum of $50,000 a person, is coming into this deal, and it's based on, obviously they believe in the asset, but I think more so than that, they believe in you.
Absolutely. It comes down to trust, and I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people in the money raising process, and I got a lot of no's, which is part of the process. But part of it is every time someone said no, I wanted to talk to them. Like, cool, no hard feelings, just talk to me about why. And some people are concerned about the area or the tenants or some excuse, doesn't really matter. But the people that said yes, I asked the same questions. Why? I'm curious. Like, trust me, I'm not questioning you, but tell me what. And a lot of it comes down to exactly, and a lot of it comes down to trust. I have someone that's investing that I worked with 6 years ago, and had not spoken to him much. Occasionally, every now and then, but we didn't have much of a relationship for the last few years. Grew apart, whatever. And but I knew that he's an investor and invests in many different things, and so I called him and reached out, and he was interested, and he's in. And he flat out told me, he said, the deal's fine, I invest in a lot of different things, that's fine, but really this is a vote of confidence for you. And he flat out said it. And that means a lot to me.
Yeah. That makes me feel good.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good for you to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really believe in that. Like, if you're a shady person, people know that. And so every aspect of my life is I just try to be honest and upfront with people and responsible, and especially now people are moving money out of stocks or other accounts to put into this deal. I take that so seriously that I'm staking my entire reputation on this deal.
Right.
And I know that there won't be a second deal if I botch the first deal. So I keep that really top of mind. So that's why I'm taking care of our investors' money so that there can be a second and a third and many more deals after this.
Right. So similar to when you got your first single-family home, right? Now you have your first multifamily apartment building, and it's a large one at that. And I'm sure there was a moment of relief after closing.
Yes.
But then that mountain to climb.
So it ended up being a bit of a mess, but I see that as an opportunity because it's not only about adding value through renovating units, but in managing as well. So to take an asset that was poorly managed and things were a mess and was not being run as a business, and to come in with that business mentality and business plan to improve it, it's just an extra level of value that we're adding to the property.
Awesome. How long do you think it's going to take for you to turn this property around?
So I have a 3-year plan to get up to market rents.
Okay.
And I try to be very conservative when I'm running my numbers and planning that out. And actually, we're already seeing in 2 months, we're well beating our expectations, which is fantastic because I like to under-promise and over-deliver with everything. And so if we have We were projecting a certain number for our average rent, and we're already beating that because we've been able to just execute that plan. But I think comfortably, in 3 years, this is going to be a very, very different property than what it is now, and hopefully within a year and a half.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. A big turnaround. I mean, it's always tough to take over a property that has tenants that were trained poorly.
Yep.
Right. And now you have to get them onto your lease, and
Yep.
you have to let them know that a new sheriff is in town.
Absolutely.
And I commend you. Right? I applaud you for taking on this adventure.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
It is an adventure. And just to speak to that about training tenants sounds silly, like training a dog, but you have to set policies and procedures. We closed 1 or 2 days before the end of the month, so June 1st came very, very quickly, and rent was due. And even with the 5 or 7 day grace period that the tenants have, we had 15 out of 40. We had 3 vacant, so 15 out of 37 did not pay the full amount of rent by the time it was due.
Right.
And so
they were probably used to coming in with whatever they had.
Yep.
And
They can't. That's how the previous manager was running it. If they didn't want to pay, he didn't really care so much. If they wanted to pay 20% of the rent now and another few percent later on, he didn't really care, right? So we had to go in, and on day one, my property manager knocked on every single door, gave them all a welcome packet that said, these are the policies and procedures, and we're going to be following this, and if you don't, you're going to be out. And sure enough, those 15 all got filed on and notices, and thankfully 12 of the 15 paid up. By the time court came, they caught up. We have one that is a special case in which she's on a payment plan.
Okay.
If she doesn't get caught up by next month, then we'll proceed with the eviction proceeding, and 2 of them did not pay, so they're out.
You know what's great? It seems like you earned your stripes in the single family investment.
Yes.
That person kind of skipped out on you for 6 months, and
Yeah.
you ended up learning the lesson the hard way. But now you're playing at a much higher level, and there's no room for mistakes. And even if you've already learned from the mistakes that you made.
Yeah.
Playing in the single family world, and now you're bringing those lessons with you.
Absolutely. I believe that 100%, and I tell a lot of people that, because I'd rather play with my money and an $80,000 house and lose rent for 6 months and take that lesson learned. And now I have no room for baloney or games or shenanigans, whatever you want to call it. And I found a property manager that really reflects that as well, and she's the same way. And there's no room for that. And even that one tenant that we have on a payment plan, like, we had a long discussion about that. I wasn't totally thrilled with that, but it's a special case, and we're gonna let it slide for this month. But in the future, like, I have too many other responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
My mortgage just needs to get paid.
Right.
So they're not taking a sob story from the tenants or from me as to why I don't have a mortgage payment for them.
Right.
So, and my investors need to get paid, and everyone else needs to get paid, and the taxes and the insurance and all of our other expenses. So the tenants have to pay.
Right.
That's the bottom line. I'm providing a renovated unit for them to live in, a safer community, a better place to live. They've got to hold up their end of the bargain and pay on time.
Got it. Okay. So before I let you go, I wanted to ask a few rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
Your answers don't have to be so quick.
All right.
Do you have a favorite personal development resource? So that could be a book you've read, a podcast that you continuously listen to, or a YouTube channel that you subscribe to. Something that just gets you motivated or keeps you on top of your game.
I float around a bit on that. Lately, I have listened to a lot of Gary Vee.
Okay.
Gary Vaynerchuk is like super motivational from an entrepreneur side of things, and I boil Gary Vee's essence into just like take action and get moving.
Right.
And so sometimes if I'm having a rough day or a lazy day or something, I'll put on a Gary Vee video, and that just, okay, now I'll make a phone call, and then that phone call leads to something else, and all of a sudden I've got some traction, and it sort of gets me going again. So I do like Gary Vee a lot, and I listen to a lot of real estate podcasts, and I try to pick up on a tip here or there. I just got Audible, so I'm listening to some books on Audible when I'm in the car. So I try to get different inspiration from different sources too.
Got it.
And honestly, I get a lot of my energy from networking meetings, talking to other investors and seeing people that are where I was 4 years ago or even last year, and just hearing their stories and talking to them and coaching them through what's going on. I do some real estate coaching on the side for new investors, and a lot of times I just talk to people and help them out, and I always tell everyone, like, you have questions, text me, because I had a lot of people that helped me and answered a lot of my questions, and they weren't asking for dollars and whatever, and so I try to give back as well, because a lot of people helped me, so I want to help others too.
Right. Do you still attend or host the Southern New Jersey?
Yeah.
You're hosting it still?
I run it, yeah. So I run the Princeton chapter of South Jersey Real Estate Investors Association. It's an organization that has 750 members or so,
Wow.
Mostly spread throughout South Jersey, but we do have a main meeting up in Princeton, so we're trying to grow into Central Jersey. And the mission there is just education and networking. So
how often does that happen, those
we
meetings?
meet once a month.
Okay.
At my meeting. There are a dozen meetings per month for the organization, so there's
Okay.
a bunch of subgroups all over the state, from New Brunswick down to Atlantic City. And so there's different topics on landlording or flipping or whatever.
And if people want to come to your meeting, how
Yeah.
can they get on your list, or how can they?
They can check us out at sjreia.org, sjreia.org. And if you're a member from my meeting, you're a member of all the meetings, and so you can get into all of it.
Got it.
Yeah. And it's a good way, for me to give back. It's not something I'm paid for, and I do get a comp membership, so that's worth about $150 a year, so that's exciting. But really, it's about bringing in good speakers, people that are going to be interested and engaging for our audience. Our audience is mostly newer investors, some that have been around for a while and have a lot, but we skew to the medium to low experience level. People that come out are just trying to figure out, what is real estate investing, and is it something for me? So we try to put a good year-long program together for them and have interesting, engaging speakers and provide networking opportunities and give people a place to learn and ask questions.
Awesome. The next question is, if I asked your best friend what you're exceptionally good at, what do you think, or at least hope, they'd say?
Probably organization and keeping things on track. I'm a project manager during the day, which is actually why I got into syndication, because it's just like managing a giant project. And so I'm pretty good at keeping everyone on task and making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and from this conversation alone, I can definitely attest to that, right? All of the follow-ups,
Yep.
right, that you were doing to the brokers
Yep.
and the realtors.
Yep.
So, yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Is there a quote, motto, or mantra that you revisit often, or some sort of philosophy that you like to live your life by?
Yeah, and I think I touched on this a little bit, but it's reinforced for me when I was talking about raising money for people, because the fact that someone trusts you. And so I heard, how you do anything is how you do everything, and that just sticks in my head every day, because how I treat a new investor walking into a meeting for the very first time, or someone who has $1 million sitting in the bank that might be a potential investor. I don't know who that is, and I just try to treat everyone with respect and hear their story and talk to them, and I try to be someone that is respected and trustworthy, and I hope that people say, yeah, that's Justin, I trust him, he's a good guy.
That's Justin, and I trust him. He's a good guy.
That's a good endorsement right there.
The next question is, what is some bad advice you hear getting tossed around in your industry? So in this case, obviously, real estate investing.
Oh, that's a good question. One of my coaching students, I coach him for pro bono, but he was analyzing a deal. He was looking at the numbers. He was looking for a triplex, which is a 3-family house, one house, 3 apartments, and he was going to live in one, rent out the other 2. And his realtor actually that he was working with, told him as he was running the numbers, don't count vacancy, don't count maintenance expenses. Those are they're just phantom expenses like that. People say you should count, but really don't count those. And I think that what gets a lot of people in trouble is they hear oh, you don't have to count that, or you can manage your way out of that expense. But the more properties I see and run the numbers on, there's always going to be vacancy is when your property is sitting empty, and that could be, if I buy a property and I'm going to put, a single family house, but I'm going to fix it up for a little bit. Let's say it takes 2 months to fix it up. Well, if I'm planning on a 1 month vacancy, I know I can't be vacant for the next 2 years because I've already had two months vacant in that very first year.
Yeah.
Right? And then every time a tenant leaves, I'm going to have some level of vacancy, a few weeks at a time, probably. There's ways that you can try to cut that down. It applies more on a larger scale like the apartment complex because you'll see certain complexes or certain areas have 7, 8, 9% vacancy rate. It's just standard for the area, and that just comes from unit turnover and getting new tenants in and old tenants out and things like that. But for the new investor to not count something like that or even maintenance as well, or CapEx, they're not counting all these expenses, they're going to end up buying something that ends up costing a lot more than they plan on. Like I said, I'm conservative in my numbers. I would rather plan for way more expenses and not buy a property than to underplan and get hit with huge bills and be underwater, be stuck, or not be able to pay my mortgage payment or the taxes.
That is really good advice. And on that note, can you maybe share where people can find out more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. So I try to have a pretty good web presence. So my apartment company is 88 Real Estate Capital. So they can find me at 88realestatecapital.com. Same on Instagram. Justin Fraser on Facebook. I also have as you recently found out, a YouTube channel with my partner Kevin for Liberty Property Investing. So if you just Google Liberty Property Investing, if you're searching on YouTube, we're right there. And we just try to put out like real, unfiltered videos about what we're doing in real estate, whether it's looking at a new property or dealing with a tenant issue or a house that gets messed up by tenant, whatever it might be. Just try to capture it and show it off a little bit. And, sometimes I end up with 10 views and sometimes I end up with 60,000 views. It just depends on the video. But really it's just like to kind of document what's going on and show a glimpse into what actually happens. Because it's not all HGTV.
Right.
You don't flip a house in 30 minutes and make $100,000. So we try to be real and show it off.
Hey, if you're not going to ask them, I will. Make sure you subscribe.
Please subscribe. Search Liberty Property Investing. Subscribe. I think we're somewhere around 600 right now, which is I think pretty good. I like it. You can start to monetize around 1,000, so that's something we might consider in the future. But really, it's just about documenting the journey. And reach out. I'd love to talk to people about real estate or apartment investing, syndication, coaching people on their first deal. I'm doing it all right now. So
awesome.
I'd love to talk real estate.
Well, thank you for joining me and helping me document my journey.
Yeah, this is great. I cannot wait for more episodes. I'm excited. Good job,
Justin.
The podcast.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.